Okay, welcome, and thanks very much, Angie, for making time today to come and have a conversation about what's been happening in the department since the publication of the Small Business Plan back in July. Obviously, there's a bit of removal of the individuals who were part of that at the time. We now have a new team in place. But I also want to get on to the conversation with you about your work with the OECD, because you're now chair of the SME committee, and there's some interesting work, I think, on the international perspective we want to draw out on this. But look, the budget's been in the headlines for reasons which we really need to get over and move on from. But Angie, could you maybe just highlight some of the key policies that were announced that are really critical for taking forward this whole agenda on which underpins the Small Business Plan? Perhaps we could start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Can people hear me? Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Forgive me, I've got notes in front of me because the Small Business Plan is like a government-wide effort, so a million policies kind of being considered. So what does the budget mean for SMEs? So there was quite a lot in the budget, but I'll hone in on some of the specific stuff for SMEs. So first of all, we had the extension of the small business rates relief. So an additional 2 years of small business rates relief when they open a second premises. So that was one highlight. Business rates reform, and in particular, permanently lower tax rates for eligible retail, hospitality and leisure. There was transitional relief support as well, particularly benefiting around 80,000 of the smallest businesses losing that relief over time. The fully funded SME apprenticeships was another, I think a particular highlight. So protecting apprenticeships, funding for SMEs and extending full funding of SME apprenticeships to all those under 25. The current offer stops at 21. British Business Bank, around the time of the budget, the new statement of strategic priorities was published. And obviously an injection of capital as been announced as part of the budget in that. Maintenance of the small profits rate, so companies with profits of 50,000 or less continue to pay a 19% corporation tax rate. Quite a bit on digital and tax simplification, so new measures to enhance HMRC's digital services, and a commitment to kind of carry on progressing down this road with a bit of a roadmap being put in place. There was also the entrepreneurship package, which was mentioned by one of our presenters earlier. So here there was expansion to the eligibility limits of enterprise management incentives for tax advantage share scheme. Look it up, but it is a good thing. But it's about future purchases of shares by employees and making that an easier option for employers. There were quite big increases to investment limits and gross asset test for venture capital trust scheme and the enterprise investment scheme. E-invoicing, big announcement on e-invoicing, so government will require all VAT invoices to be issued in a specified electronic format from April 29, and there needs to be an implementation roadmap for that too, because that is recognised as quite a big ask of businesses. There was also support for high streets, so banning upward rent review clauses and providing 5 billion to neighbourhoods through Pride in Place, easing regulatory burdens for high street businesses. Other things that were announced was a review of tax reliefs for both start-ups and scale-ups. That closes in February. Do get involved with that. That is a really good chance to kind of input all of the evidence and research that you're all involved in and real lived experiences into looking at reforms in this space. And there was also a call for evidence on cooperatives and non-financial mutuals on starting, growing and sustaining, as well as transitioning to those different business models with a broader purpose than profit. Again, that closes, that's open for 12 weeks, so please do get involved in that as well.
So quite a lot going on in your world, Angie. In terms of how that, where we've got to in the plan since it was published in July, I mean, there's obviously the parallel work on the Business Growth Service, for example. So where have we got to as we end basically 4 or 5 months after the publication of the plan? Where have we got to? I mean, obviously there's a lot of still thinking about rolling out some more programs, but in terms of the overall plan, where have we got to?
Yeah. So like I said, the plan was published back in July. It's like really important to view the plan as a live plan. It's not you publish something, kind of job done. There's the implementation of it, but there's also the ongoing evolution of the plan. Not everything was captured in July, and some of this discussion that we've had this morning kind of illustrates some of that. So it is a live plan. It contains over 200 targeted actions, including 85 new policy measures. And some of these include quite a lot of activity on late payments, a new business growth service, like you mentioned, Mark. So that was launched back in. Part of that was launched back in June on business.gov.uk, and I'll loop back to this. Package of support tailored to high streets to make it easier for SMEs to set up shop. And that included things like a new licensing framework and a £4 billion boost to increase access to finance for entrepreneurs. So they were kind of some of the highlights, but there was lots in there. In terms of action since then, so MHCLG published their Pride and Place strategy on the 25th of September. So that'll see £5 billion over 10 years to support 250 places, including high streets. There was the development of the next round of local skills improvement plans, which give employers a stronger role in the skills system. And that commenced on the 1st of October this year in devolved areas. MHCLG announced 12 winning teams of the 1.2 million Prop Tech Innovation Challenge. So that's quite a big milestone towards building 1.5 million homes. Measures in the Procurement Act have come into force, particularly on prompt payments. We've had national campaigns like International Trade Week, Small Business Saturday coming up. And we've partnered with Google over the last few weeks as well to do a series of events for SMEs to explore the role of AI. I went to one of them. It was quite good. There was a Lego competition. I won. I built a castle. But it was kind of illustrating like through games, illustrating the power that AI can bring, as well as kind of recognising the current limitations in it too. On the business growth service, so a lot of activity in this space. So the idea of the business growth service is that it brings everything under one brand. And we know from our international evidence and from the work with the OECD that that is key to successful entrepreneurship systems. And the idea is that it brings together the business support ecosystem at a national, devolved and local level without replacing anything. It's about making that journey easier. So at launch, a website was introduced, business.gov.uk, bringing together DBT's export and domestic support services, as well as signposting to Growth Hub networks, chambers of commerce, sector-specific trade associations. So very much kind of initially focusing on DBT's family, if you like, as a starting point.
I mean, just let me interrupt you there, Angie, if I may, in terms of the analytics on that website. What's the story to date about usage, and what's where are people going and how are they using it? Is there any information on that as yet?
We're collecting it.
Okay.
It's pretty early days, so we're having conversations like how do you segment that data so we can follow that journey. But there is activity on it and there is data to collect, so it is getting used, which is the first challenge. But over the next 12 to 18 months, that offer's gonna widen. So it includes joining up with the BBB Finance Hub, again to increase the awareness and use of the system. And once we've got a good level of data, we can start kind of interrogating it. But data's like a massive focus at the moment. Collect the right ones, monitor the right activity, contribute towards an evaluation of the business growth service and the value added that it brings. So that's very much on our radar. So since launch, webinars have been developed via the Business Academy, which is broader than exports now, and covering topics like starting up, finance, marketing, digital adoption, and also exporting. There's an AI summariser for businesses to kind of understand what their funding and finance offers are available to them. Again, that's getting monitored to check that it's giving the right things. There was a business growth service roadshow that kicked off in Newcastle last week to give SMEs the opportunity to hear about the support that was available through the service. And there's a Back in Your Business marketing campaign that will kick off shortly as well. In all of this, it's leveraging the opportunities of tech and AI are part of it. But if I go back to the beginning about this being a common brand, it's also about what the growth hubs can deliver, what happens on the ground. It's not just about a digital experience. And on that, the BGS will develop in close partnership with devolved and local government and the private sector. And one of the things that we want to make sure is that SME, like business own insights, are built into the evolution of the service. So in December, there's going to be a Business Voices panel launched to help achieve some of that.
Can I just pick up the point you've just made about the devolved nations and the Business Growth Service?
Yeah.
I mean, in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, is there danger there in sort of cutting across recognised brands locally in those devolved nations? Is there an issue there, perhaps?
I mean, I think that's why the collaboration is needed to avoid that. But a lot of the stuff that you'll see in the Business Growth Service isn't England only. A lot of it is national. If you think about the support that the British Business Bank offers, that's UK-wide. Further down the line, as more government services are brought on stream, that's going to be more and more the case. But that just emphasises the need for very close working, so you don't get that confusion.
I want to move on, and it was raised earlier by one of our presenters. How on earth are you going to work out with this range of activity what success looks like? Now,
Yeah.
I know you and the team have been giving this great consideration, but where have you got to? How will we know before the end of this Parliament that this new plan is actually working or moving in the right direction?
Yeah, so that is an active piece of thinking at the moment. So there's, what are our delivery milestones and how far have we got with those? Because in the short term, they're the key things that we need to monitor. But what are the metrics that go alongside that show that illustrate the outcomes that we're seeking to achieve? So growth, productivity, but also that easier user journey and getting the business on the Business Growth Service in particular, like getting businesses to the right support at the right time to meet their needs. And then there's the whole host of wider government activity that underpins the 200 initiatives that I mentioned earlier. So the idea is that we will be reporting publicly on this maximum at the latest by 2027, but ideally sooner and on a regular basis. Those outcomes will take a bit longer, as you know, but it'll be a mixture of kind of high-level economy-wide metrics, but also what are we seeing through our evaluation activity? What are we seeing through some of the monitoring data, for example, through the Business Growth Service, but also the support mechanisms that are getting put in place. And it's, like I said, it's a whole government effort, but that is a key strand. Like, what does success look like? How do we know we're doing the right things? I'm really interested to hear people's thoughts on the things that we should be capturing.
I think you'll probably hear some of those comments
so,
shortly. Can I just pick up on the Cross Whitehall sort of collaboration on the plan?
Yeah.
This may be a question you're not really comfortable with, but in terms of the extent to which other departments are really working sort of hand in glove with you on the not just the metrics but on the delivery, the implementation. I mean, what's the story there?
Yeah. So we have groups set up that regularly come together across Whitehall at different levels. So DG, Director General, so that's kind of quite high up, just one level down from PEMSEC, and downwards, in order to keep that collaboration going. Not least because DBT aren't responsible for all of the policies in the plan. Each department will be accountable for delivering what has been put in the plan, but they'll be accountable for it whether the plan was in existence or not, if you see what I mean. So it's about capturing that and then just making sure that it contributes to the 5 pillars that were part of the plan, but the broader kind of growth and productivity outcomes that we're seeking to achieve.
Okay, thanks. Well, look, let's park the sort of UK agenda until some Q&A, but let's move on to the OECD. You've been involved there for a little while now, and you're looking forward to another number of years involved in chairing the SME committee. So what have you sort of brought back from those international discussions to have a bearing on the way in which the UK needs to respond to a certain agenda? What are the top 3 priorities are coming out of those discussions?
So I don't know if people know about kind of the structures at the OECD, but the OECD Committee on Entrepreneurs and on SMEs and Entrepreneurship was elevated to committee status back in 2022, kind of reflecting the importance of SMEs right across the globe, not just as a subset of broader industrial policy, but something that deserves its own kind of attention. So that was a really great result, and that was driven forward at a ministerial level across all the different participating countries. So the big backdrop to the conversations that we're having at the committee at the moment is navigating uncertainty. So we've got all of these priorities, some of which that were mentioned this morning, but it's in the context of a lot of uncertainty and a lot of change. So support for SMEs and policies for SMEs need to kind of bake that into the thinking. And the discourse has kind of moved on from post-pandemic recovery and resilience towards competitiveness and growth. Every country is talking about competitiveness and growth, and the key driver for achieving this being productivity. So very similar conversations, no matter what part of the world, on this. So the 3 pillars of what we're doing in the committee are SMEs and entrepreneurship as engines of growth, SME adaptation to megatrends, so AI, but also greening, sustainability, and fit for purpose regulation and policy. So like I said, we see similar issues across many countries. So slowdown in productivity across the world, it's not just a UK issue. How can you help businesses scale and succeed? So scale up is a feature, and the EU have just put out their own scale up strategy, but everyone means different things by it. So there's everybody means different. Everyone means a different thing by startups as well. So helping SMEs trade and work internationally in the current geopolitical climate is a focus as well. And green issues and sustainability is a key feature. And all of these are in keeping with the stuff that we've been talking about in the SME plan, and of course the work of the ERC as well. So increasingly the committee is looking at more horizontal issues. So digitalisation, sustainability, investment as well. We recently had a joint session with the Committee on Investment, on foreign direct investment, and not just in terms of FDI coming into a country and impacting on supply chains, but also FDI that SMEs bring when they invest in other countries, so kind of 2 ways. And social economy and trade. So some of the shall I talk about some of the main areas that we've been looking at? So scale up and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So there's a recent OECD report on unleashing SME potential to scale up. So that's about improving the understanding of scaling businesses themselves and the different work countries are doing on their entrepreneurship ecosystems. So it's not a case of us looking and saying, oh, this country does this, has a brilliant ecosystem, let's transplant that into another one. It's looking at the most effective parts of that. So that's kind of an update on some of the scale-up thinking. Loads of work on SME finance. That is a consistent theme through the work of the committee. The SME Finance Scoreboard is one of the key publications. And in the latest report, again, this is about all 47 countries that are covered. Interest rates remain relatively high, but starting to come down. Small rise in business lending compared to the previous year. And UK in particular performs quite well in venture capital compared to other countries, excluding the US. So some positives, but very small kind of change.
When you're in discussions, Angie, with your counterparts in those other countries, which country stands out as saying, "Oh, wow, that's really an interesting development"? Who are the key go-to conversations and coffee breaks and lunches for you?
So it really depends from committee to committee. Israel does really interesting interesting stuff. And so they're always quite vocal. Turkey as well, a lot on digital transformation and globalisation more generally. And on greening and sustainability, it's countries like Canada, Japan, again, Turkey spoke a lot at the last committee meeting, Mexico, Belgium and Malaysia. So they're the most kind of vocal countries around the committee and doing interesting things. Israel's doing lots on digital as well that we can learn from. And we're doing a lot on digital for SME. So there's an initiative called Digital for SME. It's got a steering group that sits under the committee, but essentially it's a platform that brings all of the actors that are important for making digital adoption actually happen together. And driving forward a research programme, but also actual, tangible activity. So, for example, this one is chaired by a minister. He's got the best name ever, Valentino Valentini. And he is he's the minister at the Italian Ministry for Enterprise, just in case you were guessing which country he might be.
We were struggling, Andy.
But he's developed a pledge for all members at Digital for SME to kind of sign up to in terms of really focusing on supporting SMEs. So you have people around the table, and not just from governments, but you've got Sage, you've got Google, you've got smaller players in that space, all kind of contributing to that dialogue and tangible actions.
Brilliant. So look, we promised the audience that they could ask you some questions about the various issues you've raised. So can I then open it to the floor? Can I remind you, please, to press your microphone, not for being audible in this room, but we have online streaming, so we need to have your microphones on to make sure they can be heard online. So, Angie, thank you very much for that rapid resume.
I had loads more to say.
I'm sure you had, indeed, because there's a lot going on. So in terms of questions for Angie, if you just raise your hand for me, please. We have one over here. Colin, microphone on, please.
I think that's working, yeah. And I apologise in advance of this question, but I think it's got to be asked. Really interested in the budget, and I was pleased to see within the local growth fund revenue provision being made for business support. I suppose one of the issues with that, however, that's available to selected mayoral combined authorities. What funding or support will be available for areas who aren't a combined authority and that don't have access to the local growth fund?
I don't have an answer to that question,
Yeah.
Colin, but I will take that back.
There's a promise, you can chase that one up.
Thank you.
Alex.
And apologies again.
Yes, button off. Alex, put your button on, please.
Yeah, is that right? Yep. Okay. Hi, I'm Alex Cole. I'm just interested in your view with this focus on scale-ups. Everybody talks about VCs, but that's just small in terms of just the opportunity. What else is the government or DBT doing to pick up or create scale from in terms of debt and other options, grants and other activities that are scalable?
Yeah. So from a finance perspective, it's very much kind of the mission, part of the mission of the British Business Bank to do more in this space and align that to the IS8 sectors in the industrial strategy, but not exclusively industrial strategy. From a wider business growth perspective, in the bit of the department that I'm working in, we're looking at more kind of holistic support that scale-ups might need and advice and how to bring that together. So again, that's an active policy question. I think in the small business plan, we kind of alluded to that. So although we didn't major on scale-ups in the small business plan, that's part of the evolution of the strategy that we're looking at now. So what kind of advice do scale-ups need at different parts of their journey, and it'll be different for each individual scale-up. So we are looking at that. But it's also like of an interest race across government. So DCIT is spending a lot of time thinking about scale-ups in the tech sector, for example, and what support they might need. So it's another piece of work that stretches beyond DBT, but we're bringing it together.
Okay, thanks. We have a question here from Inge, and then we'll come here.
I hope it works. It does.
Yes.
Inge Hill. Two questions that are related. One question is, to what extent do you include sole traders in your definition and understanding of micro-enterprises? Because many large businesses started one day being a sole trader and then turned it into a limited company, etc. And the second one is related. I notice an implicit urban bias. So to what extent do you consider the very different conditions of rural businesses going forward? Because currently, small business strategy, it was only mentioned but not with any real content and helpful.
Yeah. So on the first one, 4 million of the SMEs are sole traders. That's implicit in kind of what I'm saying about the work of the OECD, but also the work of DBT. It's not about excluding sole traders, but it's about thinking about what's the appropriate and different types of support and information each segment of the business population might need. I'm talking really roughly because I'm generalising here, but it's very much part of that SME definition. On rural businesses, DEFRA have quite a bit of activity going on in this space, and we've been part of the consultative work that they've been doing on rural businesses. So although you might not see it as a big feature in the SME plan, the content of the SME plan and what we've found to put that together is feeding into the work that DEFRA are doing. And then that'll have a feedback loop as we kind of evolve the strategy. So, for example, in the business growth service, we'll need to be thinking how does this impact and reach rural areas when we think about the business growth service as not just a digital offer, but that might be more important for rural areas. So, quite a bit of work with DEFRA on it.
We've got one question here. We're going to have to bring the session to an end very quickly.
Me?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. Pyle Walker, Women on Board CIC. I just wanted to come back to, you've mentioned about the fit for purpose, regulation and policy. We sit and we've set up an APPG for equitable governance. How can we be included in that conversation with you?
Should we have a chat at lunch?
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a very direct answer to a very direct question.
And that's all I wanted. Thank you.
Well, we'll call that session a result then, shall we? Listen, I would just like you to show your appreciation to Angie for giving her time.